Greetings and welcome again to Gosford Musical Society's History. Now, I have spoken before about things like the venues we've been at, the Valencia Theater, the Dwyer Pavilion. I've looked at a couple of shows. Today, I want to be, quite brief for me, to talk about a wonderful show that we put on a few years ago called Mary Poppins. Now, I got to say that the end result of Mary Poppins was one of the greatest theatrical experiences, I believe, for audiences, because it was just, as you're going to see from some of the pictures that I have, it was such a visually wonderful show. An extravaganza that I think we did over like 5 weeks. I was in the cast, and I got to tell you, the bubbling enthusiasm that went throughout there was just wonderful. It was sold out. Absolutely sold out. We could have put it on for a lot longer. It was directed by Chris King, who many would know, has directed a number of shows for us. And so it was a large cast, which was great, at a cast of 56. Now, interesting, because we knew that Mary Poppins was coming up and auditions were held, I got to tell you, they came out of the woodwork. Very few shows you get so many people to audition. Well over 200 auditioned for Mary Poppins. It was on that same sort of thing like a Les Miserables, where people love that show and they want to audition. Lots of children. I think there was something like 60 children that auditioned for just the 4 roles, which is just incredible. It must have been tough picking them too, very hard. They had a 5-month, when I say they, I was in it, so we had a 5-month rehearsal period, which is probably 1 month longer than normal, because it's such a intricate show that had so many different parts in it. I might add too that it was a challenge. And I gotta say that the production team, the challenges that they really had was Mary Poppins has to fly. And that is a huge challenge. See, in the old days, when we did like stuff like, I'm just trying to think, when we had to fly somebody, they would put a harness like on them, and there would be the fly bar would be there, and the poor guys trying to pull the fly bar up would have people going up like that. We're not allowed to do that anymore. It's pretty dangerous too. So you actually need what's called like a flying machine. And it's a whole apparatus that comes and gets hooked up, and you got to practice with that too, which is quite amazing. So they had that challenge. And it wasn't just Mary Poppins, but Bert has to fly in it too. And you'll see some pictures of that in a moment. There were 30 backstage crew that worked on Mary Poppins. 30 backstage crew. The set was enormous, looked spectacular, but you needed lots of people to move things. So we're going to have a look now at some pictures of that. Costuming, by the way, was extraordinary, of course, as our shows are. Casey Thompson in this picture played Mary Poppins. Perfect choice. Had a lovely enunciation where every word that she said was just that perfect English tone. She was marvelous. We have one of the scenes that probably, you look at that scene there and it's reminiscent almost of the movie Mary Poppins, although I think this was better. And you can see by the costuming there how elaborate it was. And that's from the actual production, so that's a great shot of that. That was, everybody basically in the company was in that scene. And we had to learn a little dance, and everybody had to dance as well as sing in that. It was great. Now this is, I love this scene. That's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Yeah, that's it. Look at those costumes. Wow. Just incredible. And of course, you'll see in the next slide some of the makeup that went with it. You go here, have a look at that. Just incredible stuff. Now that's again a close-up from the bows that were on the either the dress rehearsal or opening night. Those were some of the main characters in Supercal. That was also used in the finale, and everybody in the company got to act out and jump up and do all that stuff. It was pretty exciting. Now we have the living statues scene, which was wonderful. Just look at that whole venue. Just that looked magnificent. Again, with outstanding lighting and costumes. Now here we have a kite. Now there was a scene in, I think it was Act 2, where it's fly a kite. And to show you how clever this GMS prod team was. They actually had members of the crew sitting up the top off stage with fishing rods and reels, and line came down attached to the kite. It was attached to the kite there, and the actors would be acting like they were flying the kite, and the kites would move up and down and up and down. That was great. Still remember that quite well. Here we have an example of a backdrop that works. Look at that backdrop. That is just incredible. Now, the backdrop in this particular scene was used to, if you like, in front of the house, the internal house, which you'll see in a moment. And so that backdrop came in as the house came on, and it was a good way to mask that happening. But that's just, the depth of that is just brilliant. And here is the inside of that house. So it's, you got heavy or hard material there, like stairways and concrete stuff, and then you've got a backdrop. That's great. And within that house, too, there were certain tricks that had to happen. People disappearing and things like that. So it was really well done. And we have the Super Cal thing. I put this one in so you can see another backdrop used. And then those panels, as you can see, those like booths, they were pushed on, joined together, and then the characters were all sort of like, they worked at that particular stall or whatever, and it was a wonderful scene. And of course, everybody knows that song. So the audience will be out there humming along and jumping around. That was great. Now, this is from Step In Time. That was a showstopper. This young man, David Symes, played Bert. The same character Dick Van Dyke did it on the movie. He was superb. And all those people behind him there are all dancers. And I mean professional type dancers. They were magnificent. One of the things that he had to do was he had to fly. But something absolute, I'll never forget it. He did a somersault, singing and doing that. It was just, wow, standing ovation stuff for that. Magnificent is the only word I can think of. And if you ever look at that whole scene, you see the backdrop of London and him flying across. Just brilliant. And to conclude with that flying, we have Mary Poppins. You cannot do Mary Poppins without flying. And that team brought it all together. So she flew from stage right across to stage left. But look at how wonderful that scene was, and it is. And these people there standing, that's the family, they were up at a high level as well. So it was quite an astonishing scene. Mary Poppins was one of the most expensive shows we've done. And the budget would have been well over $200,000. Again, because of the flying and the elaborate stuff and the costumes. But that's why we do community theater, to bring the best to the Central Coast. It was a show that I'll never forget. It was the last one that I did on stage. I loved it, and I know the audiences absolutely did. So this is Darryl Davis saying thank you very much. And remember, Mary Poppins, wonderful show. Thank you.